And greetings. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. And we are on location. As you can see, we're here at the Conservative Partnership Institute, their studios here in the heart of Washington, D.C. And we got summoned here at the last minute. I'm going to be keynoting their gala tonight, and just decided after lecturing y'all for the last few days about how we got to get a lot more inconvenient to fill the massive void Charlie leaves behind, it was worth completely rearranging multiple people's schedules, including Todd's, so that I didn't have to travel alone out here and make this happen, especially given the gravity of the moment and who will be in attendance here this evening. So if you guys could definitely pray that I say what needs to be said here tonight and makes this trip worthwhile, would greatly appreciate that. We're going to be here the next 2 days, and then we'll be back in Des Moines on Wednesday at our home studios, and then I'm heading off to Boise to talk to the Idaho Family Policy Alliance. That's been scheduled for months now, and I'll be doing my show out there on Thursday and Friday. But again, all of us are going to have to chip in and do more in light of the massive void that Charlie has left. And so this is just our little attempt here to do the same. We are going to have, though, a jam-packed show for you today. I'll tell you about it after I remind you about our friends at Real Estate Agents I Trust. And Todd, in these unprecedented times.
Bing.
Yeah, definitely. You need to make sure that you've got a real estate agent that you can trust, whether you're going across town or you're going across the country. You want to get the kind of agent that you'll be recommending to the people that you care about for years to come. Where would you find that agent? Well, the name kind of says it all. realestateagentsitrust.com is where you want to go. That's realestateagentsitrust.com. And there we're going to hook you up with an agent whose track record of success has been verified by us. Otherwise, we wouldn't recommend them to you. And a lot of times they're going to come from right here in the same Blaze audience that you do as well. So head over there now to get started at realestateagentsitrust.com. And also don't forget about our friend and colleague Ali Stuckey's upcoming event on October 11th in Dallas, Share the Arrows. This is for ladies who want to be inspired, equipped, and encouraged. Great speakers, Taylor Dukes, Katie Faust, who we just had on our show just last week, and more, joining Ali Stuckey in Dallas. If you want to get tickets, VIP options are still available. So guys, great gift for your daughter, your wife, your sister, your mom. ShareTheArrows.com is where you can go. That's ShareTheArrows.com. And again, ShareTheArrows.com. All right, coming up on today's show, Aaron Siri is going to join us from ICANN and also from the High Wire. He's got a new book out. Maybe you just saw his testimony. We played a clip or two of it last week before the United States Senate. We're going to talk to him about have vaccines become a religion in America. He's going to join us at the bottom of the hour to discuss that. And then next hour, a lot has transpired here in the last now 5 days. It feels like the world has changed. The ground has shifted. I am hearing reports from ministries and churches I know all over the country that saw a massive uptick in people attending, almost like it was Christmas and Easter kind of an event in the wake of the martyring of Charlie Kirk, our good friend, last week. Just anecdotally, our own church had 46 people come to Christ in the first service alone. Unprecedented kind of numbers. So what does this all mean, and what will it mean moving forward? I've got 10 big ideas that I think are takeaways from the last 5 days, and we're going to discuss those for the entire hour, next hour on the show. But before we get there, let's get to Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by Strength. On Friday night, the greatest display of Holy Spirit-inspired strength happened as Erika Kirk, the widow of martyred Charlie Kirk, addressed the world.
2 days ago, my husband, Charlie, went to see the face of his Savior and his God. Charlie always said that when he was gone, he wanted to be remembered for his courage and for his faith. And one of the final conversations that he had on this earth, my husband witnessed for his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Now and for all eternity, he will stand at his Savior's side, wearing the glorious crown of a martyr. Evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. But they should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea.
It's one of the most powerful displays of strength I have ever seen from the widow of Charlie Kirk. Now on to picking up the pieces. Utah Governor Spencer Cox says Kirk's assassin is not cooperating with the investigation, though everyone around him is. He also says it's clear what motivated him.
That this was a person who was deeply indoctrinated with leftist ideology.
So that information comes from the people around him, from his family members and friends. That's how we got that information. Again, there's so much more that we're learning and so much more that we will learn. There will be official charges will be filed on Tuesday, and there will be much more evidence and information available then. And again, we're interviewing all kinds of people, everyone that knows him, and trying to learn more about what that motive actually was.
We also learned over the weekend the roommate of Kirk's assassin is a dude who feels pretty, who recently started taking chemical castration drugs. The neighbor of the assassin told The Sun one thing is very clear.
I remember them talking about a doctor's appointment. It was about 2 weeks ago, I would say.
And they were kissing?
Yeah.
Do you know, where did you see them kissing?
Just coming out. I was riding with my bike, so I didn't see the whole thing, but yeah, I saw them.
And when did you hear them talking about a doctor's appointment?
I would say about the same time that they came out, so that one time, yeah.
And where were you standing for that?
I was just riding by here.
Okay. So. And you were able to hear snippets of their conversation?
Yeah. Yep.
But you were sure that they were a couple, but you have only seen them together once?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, random guys don't hold hands and definitely don't kiss.
President Trump remains steadfast and is not playing the both sides game.
Well, the problem is on the left. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left, that's not the right.
Oklahoma Senator James Lankford wants you to know the first thing he thinks of when it comes to political violence is white supremacy.
We need to be careful in how we talk about this, whether it is talking about white nationalists and preparing to be able to attack and to be able to carry an attack, or it is somebody like a Timothy McVeigh that hated the government intensely and in my state 30 years ago murdered 168 people in Oklahoma City, or whether it is a leftist group that is interested in actually attacking a pro-life center that we saw several years ago.
Yes, the senator from the nation's reddest state is a complete and total dastard and lowlife whose top-of-mind example of political violence is white supremacy and a terror attack that occurred when Charlie Kirk was 1 year old. However, tributes poured in from all over the world for Charlie Kirk, from Coldplay to Chris Pratt to the New York Jets to Morgan Wallen, Oregon football coach Dan Lanning, and a lot of points in between. It wasn't all lefty exuberance like we saw on Friday. At a memorial service at the Kennedy Center last night, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who was friends with the Kirks, delivered this inspiring address.
And I had a conversation once with Charlie where we were talking about the danger that we both faced from challenging entrenched interests. And he asked me if I was scared to die. And I said to him, there's a lot worse things than dying. And one of those... And chief among those is losing our constitutional rights and having our children raised in slavery. And I said to him at that time, I said, sometimes our only consolation is that we can die with our boots on. We can die fighting for these things. life so that the rest of us would not have to suffer those fates worse than death. Now it's our job, and he's no longer there to lead us, to rush in and fill the breach and win this battle for our country, for God, and for our families. Thank you.
You just heard is America. And that's what happened while we were away.
I have to tell you, watching the comments from James Lankford, I've done this, I've prayed this every day since that night in that Rochester, New York hospital, when I 100% believe the Lord said to me, Stephen, I need apostles and not assassins. The comments from James Lankford are going to test the boundaries of that for me. And I have to tell you, I am not tempted in the least. I'm just not. To hate anybody caught in the throes of the demonic deception known as tranny madness. Not at all. The Charlie Kirk I knew would, I mean, look at the cross section of friends that Charlie had on the right. I reached out to somebody over the weekend, a name all of you would know. And we haven't spoken since this last divisive primary. And I reached out to him this weekend and I just said, listen, man, whatever role I've played in that, I'm sorry. Any unnecessary divisiveness beyond just a disagreement, I apologize. And he texted me back about an hour later and said, it's all right, man. Charlie was very adamant. We're all on the same team. How many people on our side are going to get acknowledgments in death from Coldplay? Arguably the most high-profile college football coach in the country. So I'm confident in this. Anybody involved in any kind of trainee terrorist group or anything of that nature that repented and came to Christ, when they reached eternity, among the first people to throw their arms around him when they got to heaven would be Charlie. Todd can tell you, he has traveled all over the country with me. He's been with me for 10 years. He knows all the stuff I think that I don't want to ever say publicly. And he'll tell you, my struggle is really not to hate the people that disagree with us. I have no temptation to hate Tyler Robinson whatsoever, and anybody else that he was involved with. Todd will tell you this, and people who know me well will tell you this. The seething anger I have is for the James Lankfords of the world. That is going to test the boundaries of apostles and not assassins. So let me try to honor that prayer in addressing the senator and people like him for just a second. Maybe you are. Maybe you're not a simp. Maybe you're not a traitor. Maybe you're not a Judas. Maybe you are really this out of touch. But I find it fascinating that my social media feed is full of atheists and agnostics. Haven't been to church in 5 years. Haven't been to church in 10 years. Haven't been to church in 15 years. Haven't been to church ever. I'm going this weekend. I went this weekend. Here's what I saw. And while they were there, Mr. Evangelical U.S. Senator James Lankford on a Sunday morning show, not at church. While they went to church, he was on a Sunday morning show, ankle grabbing for the devil. No other way to put it. Straight up. Maybe because of the life of luxury as a U.S. Senator he's been afforded, he just simply doesn't understand that the social compact is broken. concerns about violating the left of center to right of center Overton window norms, 2005 called, and it wants its political analysis back. We're way past the rainbow here. We're way over the rainbow, Dorothy. We are not in Kansas or Oklahoma, James, anymore. We are way past it. And I think you have to ask yourself, if someone is still not awake after this, after watching the most high-profile martyring of an American Christian in public we have seen, at least in my lifetime. I'm 52, so half a century. And your inclination is to draw, hey, let's all make sure we simmer down here. No. No. And you contrast James Lankford, who frankly is one of the reasons that Charlie is dead. James Lankford and the papacy of Osteen, Hybels, and Warren of the last generation so simped for the spirit of the age, so simped for the enemy, that a guy who had one of the largest cross-sections of friends of anybody in the United States of America, and was probably the last person left with a platform who mattered, who was actually trying to persuade people in places where, frankly, I believe persuasion was no longer possible. He's now radical just for repeating what orthodoxies of the church for 2,000 years, accepted norms in the West. And it's people like Lankford and too many of our pastors that help to radicalize this culture. They so watered down what it is we actually believed that when someone came along and just gave them the vanilla version, Charlie's not out there doing imprecatory prayers. Dude, Charlie began a talk in Utah by specifically saying to the LDS people, I'm not here to argue about your religion, just here to have a conversation. And an hour later, he took a bullet to the throat. Because we have shown evil, we won't stand up to it. At best, we'll just mock it and use it to our own cynical advantages, but we won't actually confront it. He's a United States Senator. How much power has he wielded throughout the course of his tenure to truly do something about the extent of evil? Instead, what he did, the only thing really Mr. Lankford's done remarkable in his entire career here in D.C. is try to cut a sweetheart deal with the Biden administration for a mass amnesty last year. That's really the only thing he's done. In the name of Jesus, of course. Not my Jesus. Not mine. And I just got to tell you, I wasn't a patient man to begin with. I'm just out of it completely. I learned at church yesterday, I'm still not out of tears, but I am out of patience for the James Lankfords of the world. If you can't get it now, then I don't care how many Bible verses you know. I don't care how much money you've given to a church. I don't care how many mission trips you've done. Depart from me. You're not in the fight, man. I can think of a million things a true believer, like a claimed true believer like James Lankford should have been doing yesterday morning on a Sunday morning, instead of hopping on CNN of all places to genuflect to the spirit of the age for Dana Bash. Because that's Christ-like or something. Now let me tell you what is Christ-like. And frankly, it's one of the most Christ-like things I've ever seen. And that is the talk that Erika Kirk gave on Friday night. Holy cow. I mean, just thinking about it just now made the hair on the back of my neck stand up again. You saw the full heart of Christ if you watched that talk. If you've not watched it in its total, you are missing out. Find some time today. Heck, turn us off for 20 minutes and go listen to it right now. I'm just going to tell you right now. I'm not going to come up with anything as good as that. Just going to tell you. Don't tell the Blaze I told you that, though. But I couldn't hold that jockstrap, man. That's out of my league. You saw Jesus wept. You saw, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. And you saw the gates of hell will not prevail against this. You saw the full spectrum of Christ-likeness in that woman, in that play, in that appearance. And you watched that play out. I was in tears in the first 10 minutes, in the last 10 minutes. If Erika Kirk had called me and said, Steve, I just need you to go ahead and just wear a turn or burn placard in downtown Mecca tomorrow, I'd be like, I'll pay for the flight out of pocket. I'm there. Wow. And you're watching a sifting take place. That's what you're watching. COVID was like the very first one. This one's even bigger. And I don't think it'll be the last one. The Lord is pruning his garden, and we haven't plucked all the weeds. There's more to go. Because there's way more James Lankfords than Erika Kirks, and that's why we're here right now. That's why a 31-year-old father of two toddlers had to take a bullet in the throat, because all the men of means that had been at this longer than him weren't willing to go to the places that he was willing to go to. They went to Dana Bash on CNN instead. They went there instead. And said, Oxler, like the retards they are. I hope Senator Lankford enjoys the benefits and accoutrements of being a United States Senator. I hope he does. I'm sincere when I say that, because I also am sincere when I say this. He has received his reward in full. Enjoy it all. Enjoy it down to the last morsel. The rest of us will do the work you were supposed to do, and already are. We just simply don't have time anymore. I'm not spending any more time with anybody on our side who doesn't understand the magnitude of this moment. It is 12:23 p.m. live at the time we're recording this, Eastern. This is me kicking dust off my sandals. I'm not addressing any of you anymore. You want to come to me? I'll listen, but I don't have time for any of you anymore. And I don't think any of you do anymore either. We're just out of time. Frankly, the girls sleeping around on WhatsApp who listened to Charlie about a year and a half ago for an hour, they're way more worth your time than Republicans like Ray Lankford are. Or James Lankford, or whatever the hell his name is. Here's something else we don't have time for anymore. I'll talk more about this next hour. Political sadism has to be purged. We can't tolerate it. I think two things this year have demonstrated. Number one, all trans surgery should be banned and made illegal and criminalized. We're just messing with wiring and mystical forces we don't understand. Human beings are more than the sum of 2 trillion cells. And just tinkering with that wiring that is arithmetic beyond us. We just aren't qualified for it. And the level of lunacy that it is uniquely producing in these people, that we are permitting this experimentation and mutilation upon. We can't sustain it as a civilization. If someone wanted to operate on people based on their race because he thought they were lesser beings and therefore capable or justifiable to be experimenting on them, what would we say, Todd? Would we permit that? No, that we'd socially stigmatize that and we'd ban it.
Yes,
correct?
with severe prejudice.
And that's what needs to happen here. This is just too much lunacy to unleash. Human beings in our fallen state are not capable of this. We are literally taking the core of the Imago Dei. As far as we know, we are the only beings in the universe that have that claim, and we're taking its core, really, and we're weaponizing it. And I just don't know how many more tragedies we have to suffer to see this isn't going to work. And people who are really struggling with these identities, we need to push them into counseling, particularly spiritual, and not to a hospital to be operated upon and mutilated. That's number one. The second thing is political sadism has to be purged. And what do I mean by sadism? I don't mean real debate, even vigorous debate. What I mean is the sadistic taking of joy in the physical ruination of another human being, the physical debasement of another human being, the physical killing of another human being. That's what a sadist means. That will ruin us faster than literally any other social contagion. And it has, especially when you see where a lot of it is located, amongst teachers, amongst healthcare workers, people that are supposed to be neutral arbiters. No. So the exposures, the shunnings, and the firings will continue until morale improves. The social cost for this needs to be so high that people just realize, even if I am tempted with that, I just can't afford to let that into my psyche. I can't afford to let that get a piece of my soul, because it'll just deny the basic needs I have in life to do that. So that's where we are right now. Two things that we cannot tolerate, and the kind of leadership we saw from Erika Kirk on Friday night that we need a lot more of. Gentlemen, what do you have? What do you think?
Well, also regarding Erika, you mentioned Bible verses that came to mind. One of my wife's favorite Bible passages came to mind. I mean, the weight of sin and death coming down on her in that moment. And she heard the Lord's voice, Talitha cum, rise, little girl, rise. Erika, my goodness, we are all blessed by your example. Secondly, Lincoln had to go through, I just walked by Ford's Theater this morning. Lincoln had to go through a lot of generals in the Civil War before he found the one that fights. This is a Grant and Sherman moment. Senator Lankford, you are neither. You should resign instantly. In the shadow of what Erika Kirk said just a day before you did what you did and said what you said, you must resign. You are not capable of handling this moment.
What came to my mind, I mean, I just want to reiterate, that is one of the just prominent displays, just amazing displays of true strength that we saw. And you could see it in her eyes. It wasn't coming from her. It was coming from the Holy Spirit. And that was so inspiring. And what came to mind, I think it's the third or fourth stanza of A Mighty Fortress is Our God. And though this world with devils filled should threaten to undo us, we will not fear, for God hath willed his truth to triumph through us. The prince of darkness grim, we tremble not for him. His rage we can endure, for lo, his doom is sure, one little word shall fell him. That's what we need, not... We need to be really careful about how we talk about this, James Lankford.
Amen to both of you. Aaron Siri is next. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. We're on location here in D.C. for the next couple of days. I'll be keynoting the Conservative Partnership Institute. That's Jim DeMint's group here in D.C. I'll be keynoting their gala tonight, and then we'll do the show tomorrow. Spend some time, Todd, over at the Heritage Foundation after the show, and then fly home. And I already told Todd, all right, Catholics now, you guys are up. Here's your chance, all right? Because in order for us to hit that, to spend the day over to Heritage at their request, meant that I had to schedule us to take that exact same direct flight home from D.C. to Des Moines. It got canceled on us the last time we came out here to broadcast from the White House. Okay? So, I mean, I expect every Catholic in this audience, and Kevin Roberts at Heritage, looking at you. Okay? I expect every Catholic within the sound of my voice to right now be praying to St. Christopher, patron saint of travel, that we do not have to spend the night at Reagan National again. When we flew in here last night, yes, we came in at the exact same gate we had to crash at.
Yeah, that's where we slept
4.5 months ago. And I'm like, no, this is some dark stuff, dark magic. I don't want any part of this. All right. So I want to see some real petitions to St. Christopher, the patron saint of travel, for tomorrow. All right. Because we're going to need it. You may need our friends over at Moxie Pest Services. They are celebrating their silver anniversary, 25 years in pest control. And they've lasted this long because they know it's the little things that add up, right? And so that's why they have daily check-ins with their staff, daily check-ins with their technicians. Number one, to make sure that you're getting the highest quality product and service. But then number two, with all the latest cutting edge technology out there, but then number two, that the agents aren't the pests themselves, right? Hey, that's great. Hey, you got rid of all the, got rid of all the wasps, but I gave you the code to my garage and the garage is now left wide open all day. I have no idea who's coming in and out of my house. That's the stuff you want to avoid. Our friends at Moxie Services, customer service is not a lost art to them. They follow up with their technicians on this stuff every day. Hey, make sure you don't track in the house, all that little stuff, right? Again, because the little things are what add up the most. So help them celebrate their 25th anniversary by getting your first pest control service for just $25 when you go to moxieservices.com/Steve and use the promo code Steve, MOXIE. For moxieservices.com/Steve. Use the promo code Steve to get $25. That's all it'll cost you for your very first pest control service, $25. moxieservices.com/Steve using the promo code Steve. All right, we've been efforting Aaron Siri. Where are we at with that?
They still need a minute or two. They're working on it.
All right. So we are trying to connect with Aaron Siri about his new book, and this title is something else. Vaccines, Amen. The religion of vaccines. And
told you.
What do you guys over there in this subculture that you're a native citizen of? And I guess I'm a seeker. I'm open after the things I've seen the last few years to some of the things you guys are confronting over there. What do you mean by attributing religious language to the vaccine issue? What do you mean by that?
Well, this is why, as long as you've heard me talk about this, I've talked about the magical power of vaccines. I think I mentioned it last week on the show even, Steve, but what is it in Thor where they says, you think what you think of as magic is our science? Mm-hmm. Well, it's that kind of thing. It's why I went. How else do you expect me going into a doctor's office when I had to get a physical when I worked at the Des Moines Register for health insurance reasons, and he asked me if I wanted a booster shot. I said, no, we don't do that in my family. And he paused, and you could tell he wanted to say something. I said, please say whatever you'd like to. That's just fine. And he said, well, if my kids were sitting next to your kids at school, I don't think I would allow that to happen. And I said, but doctor, your kids are vaccinated. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me like I had two heads. It's your Jehovah's Witness thing. But that's cult thinking. I'm not that smart of a guy. But why do I have to be vaccinated for your vaccine to work? Mm-hmm. And heads just explode. And it's perfect that you're asking me this question right now, because God bless him, I just gave you a Charlie Kirk answer. That's what he did day after day after day when he went to these college campuses, exposing that level of cultish blindness. And now it's gone from when Steve, you and I, you're 52, I'm 53. When we were teenagers, by that time, we
17
shots,
right?
and now it's over 70.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cult.
I think there's more than 17 they want you to give your kid in the first 2 years now.
Oh, it's insane.
So I heard Siri say something recently when there's no other product on the market by which the selling point is the use of the term belief. Like no one says, I believe in Coca-Cola. Like no one says, I believe in Ford. I like Coke Zero, although I can't drink as much of it as I used to by a long shot. I drive a Ford Ranger, right? No one says, I believe in Apple as a selling point or a demand for the product. Why do they say that about this? What is I believe it? What's scientific about I believe in? Because there is a pursuit that is driven by belief more than anything else, and that would be religion. But what other product is driven by a belief in it, as opposed to, you know why I like Coke? Because I think it tastes better than Pepsi. It's really, there's just nothing more basic than that.
Well, the reason they do that is because they need a level of religious thinking to get you to abandon the skepticism. Especially look at the crazed leftists on the left who they gave them such meaning and purpose. But these are the same kind of people for Steve, our entire adult lifetime, who have been rallying against corporate America, big business, things like that. There is not a bigger business. There is not a more corporate soulless hydra than big pharma. So how are they not going to apply the rules that they've had for the last how many years, the hippies, to that? It's by forming the kind of religiosity, the faith, the belief that you're talking about.
All right, we are so far into the segment now, we're just going to have to try to reschedule him. It just wouldn't be fair at this point to bring him on, okay? Because I want to make sure that he gets a full vetting with what he has to say. What I find fascinating, you know what? Let's do this. Let's talk about cancel culture for a second. Because when we were concerned about this several years ago, my concern was this is how you'll break the social compact. That was basically my concern, that if we're going to go out and hunt people down on the basis of their beliefs and say things like, because remember what we were talking about at the advent of this story. One of the first cases was the Villanova College basketball player just got named, name escapes me, just got named, this was 2018, because he beat my favorite team, just got named most outstanding player of the Final Four. And they went and saw that he was quoting some rap lyrics on a social media account when he was a kid that included some N-bombs and some, so-called gay slurs, whatever those may be, okay? And so he had to be canceled. Then there was like a college volleyball team, same thing, right? They had recorded themselves, quoting and dancing to their favorite, gangster rap or hip-hop group. And of course, there's going to be all kinds of racially charged, sexually charged lingo in there, so they have to be canceled. There was the guy that tried to raise the money for the kids here in Iowa, same kind of a thing, all right? And so my concern was, if that's the standard now, we are going to break the social compact in America, and we won't be able to live together. And I do think it's important for me to explain this to you, because I want to make sure you understand why I've changed my mind on this. Because it's not that I've changed my mind on it at all. What changed is, over the last couple of years, it became very clear that the social compact is broken. And the take that I had on this before was outdated now. I just looked at the data. Unlike, well, I believe in vaccines. Okay, well, great. Just show me the data that shows they work and are worth the risk. That's really all I care about. It's not a belief to me. It's not a creed. I'm just looking for evidence. I mean, the reason why, I'm not advertising copper bracelets to the audience is I believe the evidence demands that they don't work. Okay. I sell things to you guys on the show that I think the evidence demands does. And it's not a belief. It's what is the evidence? And it was very clear that the other side was doing this because I finally had to just admit, based on what happened in the next couple of years since, including, what was the number, 40% of Democrats or 30% of Democrats thought your kid should get taken from me if you wouldn't give them the COVID jab, right? We had a president say that you couldn't work in a Fortune 500 company unless you allowed yourself to be an experiment for a toxic genetic serum, right?
Yep.
See, either the left started things like cancel culture because the social compact was broken or they were trying to break it. That I don't know the answer to, but regardless, the events, the intervening events of the last few years since that debate was raging in the last couple of years pre-COVID, what's raged the 5 years since COVID, it's pretty clear the social compact in America is broken. To the point now that we've gone from cancel culture to political sadism. And I cannot wait to tell you that I think people who disagree with me ought to be assassinated. And understand, if we're talking about, if they're saying this about Charlie Kirk, they mean this about all of you, including your family members. That's what they mean too, and that's what you know, and that's why it hurts. So you're worried if the social compact is broken, then there's no such. This is important. Now listen to this. What I'm about to say next, please. All right, put your ear very close to the speaker here. If the social compact is broken, then there's no such thing as cancel culture. For example, how many German cities did we bomb in 1935? How many? 0. How many did we bomb in 1945?
More.
As many as we could possibly bomb. What changed? What changed from 1935 to 1945?
The final solution.
Yeah, we were not at war with Germany in 1935, right? We were at war with Germany in 1945. You see what I'm getting at here? The social compact, our relationship to Germany as a nation, as a fellow Western nation. Guys, German was almost the official language of the United States. So other than England, there were more people of German ancestry in the country, I think, than any other nation until the early 20th century European migration.
It was the seat of the Holy Roman Empire.
Correct.
Music, philosophy, etc.
Germany was the greatest country on earth. The Bismarck Kaiser era of Germany was the greatest, most powerful nation on earth until we fully ascended into that role. All right. And so the social compact between us and Germany was broken. They broke it. And that's why we weren't bombing any German cities in 1935. That would have been, we all would have agreed, just to indiscriminately start bombing German cities in 1935 would have been wrong, would have been immoral. We all would have said that, right?
Yeah.
Who was saying that in 1945? Nobody. Because the conditions clearly had changed. The social compact between us and Germany was broken. Therefore, since the social compact internally here in America is broken, and if you don't believe that, I don't know, I shudder to think how many more tragedies we're going to have to experience for you to finally grasp that concept. And I sincerely pray that it won't be you and your family victimized in one of those then. Since the social compact is broken in America, there can be no such thing as cancel culture. Doesn't exist. You have a thing called cancel culture when there's an e pluribus unum, when you're actively striving to live together despite differences. So, like MSNBC right now is losing its mind over all these people losing their jobs for sadistically celebrating Charlie's murder and martyrdom. But that's the same network that wanted all of you to lose your jobs if you wouldn't take a toxic genetic serum over and over and over again. You see what I'm saying? That's not an intact social compact. We are living on the same landmass, but we are not the same country. And so therefore, there's no such thing as cancel culture. You are concerned about those radicalizations when there's still an intact social compact, because you know that'll break it. The social compact is already broken. And so just as there was no concern about bombing German cities in 1945, and yet we all would have cried that's immoral to do it in 1935, well, what changed in those intervening years? The conditions of the relationship between Germany and the United States. Similarly, the relationship here within the United States has dramatically changed, has it not?
Yeah.
So therefore, there is no cancel culture. It doesn't exist. We're in a war now. We're in a war. And again, I don't know about everybody else within the sound of my voice, but I kind of like civil wars better when my side wins.
And if that means half the teachers in your school need to be fired,
so be it.
So be it.
It means they shouldn't have been there in the first place. And I have no guilt, no remorse. It's not a social credit score. It's a war. It's a war. Just like it's not murder to execute a serial killer. The serial killer is the one who committed the murder. The moral basis for the actions dictates whether or not the response to it is righteous or not, or the lack thereof. It's not a one-to-one. If you're out there crying about this is woke right, then you're no different than the leftist who says, well, how are you guys pro-life, but you're for the death penalty? As if it's a moral equivalency between an unborn child and a murderer. There's no moral equivalency there. None. Which is why it's justified to execute the one and not the other. Likewise, there can be no cancel culture anymore. There's just civil war. And if the events of the last 5 days don't bring that point home to you, maybe you can get a job in Senator Lankford's office. Hour 2 is next. Back here at hour number 2, live and on demand here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast, on location in D.C. today and tomorrow. Steve Deace here with Todd Erzin, Aaron back there in the studio. And you can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Steve at stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also subscribe to our new YouTube channel at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And don't forget to also hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, follow if you're a podcast listener, and that will ensure that every time we do one of these new episodes, it's for sure right there in your podcast feed. Thank you if you've done that for us. And thanks to the tens of thousands of you that have left us 5-star reviews. It truly is amazing. And Aaron has pointed this out a few times, given how incendiary the content of this show can be, that we are averaging 4.9 stars with tens of thousands of reviews. It's just, it's truly remarkable. So thank you guys for each and every one of those. I know the Blaze management appreciates those too. And thank you if you want to add yours to the growing pile today as well. And also thanks to our friends over at Beam. They became a real game changer for me this year, because they are the answer to the question, how is it possible that Steve Deace won't have to get up to pee at least once in the middle of the night? Last night, I had to get up twice, because I forgot to bring my Beam Dream Powder with me, and I got up twice to pee. And that's the thing about Beam. It is science-backed, proudly founded here in America, run by people who share our values of hard work, integrity, delivering results. Don't believe in Beam. Don't believe in Beam. It's a product, okay? Check out to see if it works. Now, it worked for me, so see if it'll work for you. And it'll help you improve sleep so you wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. You'll wake up energized and not groggy. And here's the deal. You're going to get the ultimate Patriot discount for being a part of our show. That's up to 40% off if you want to try the best-selling Dream Powder. that I forgot to bring with me. And get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/Steve and use the code Steve at checkout. That's shopbeam, B-E-A-M, like laser beam, shopbeam.com/Steve. Use the code Steve for up to 40% off at checkout so that you'll sleep better, wake up stronger, show up ready for your family, your work, and your country, because when you're well rested, you're unstoppable. And we need more people like that right now. Shopbeam.com/Steve and use the promo code Steve for the big discount. All right, so this hour, I think the events of the last 5 days, a very fateful last 5 days, a giant sifting that we are watching take place. I think they merit us taking some time to get a broader perspective, guys, and kind of reflect on what these last 5 days may or may not mean now and moving forward. So I've come up with 10 bullet points today that I think, and you guys may come up with more if we get done with these 10 that need to be addressed. But I think 10 takeaways from the last fateful 5 days. Let's start here. I think this is the most consequential assassination of my lifetime. I wasn't alive in the spring of 1968 when both MLK and RFK were assassinated. I wouldn't be born for more than a decade when JFK was assassinated. But in my lifetime, in the 52 years I've been on this earth, I think this is the most consequential assassination of my lifetime. And I think at the very least, guys, I think it's the most consequential assassination of a non-elected official in my lifetime. Thoughts?
Well, I think the last part, non-elected, because and I think that's why it's so potent. There is he represented something that could not be turned off in an election. And I think that's one of the reasons the forces of darkness went nuts to the extent that they just did. Because any true, Steve, what do you always say about movements? What we have or what we don't have politically? You know, Charlie took this way beyond any one moment. He was making sure this was going to a movement. And again, amongst Steve and I have been talking off air, amongst our generation, there's a lot of people our age that are kind of in the same level. But it's amazing talking to my own daughters. Again, he was their Rush Limbaugh already. His ceiling was way higher than anybody else. And no election could change that. In fact, every election moving forward was probably going to make him stronger.
Indeed, and I don't think that's even close. And I pray it's not going to be close. It is all because of that non-elected part. You know, the first thing that I said in reaction to the attempted assassination on President Trump last summer was that this was something that we were shocked to see, but not surprised. You can be shocked and not surprised because that's we all knew this about the left and who they were and what they were attempting to accomplish, and it wasn't a surprise, but it was still shocking to see the sausage get made nonetheless. But you expect that, especially of elected representatives. You saw that with the congressional baseball field shooting and the attempted assassinations there. Mm-hmm. You expect that when a lefty tried to firebomb Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. He was a free Palestine activist, whatever you want to call it. That's on the left in this country. Firebombed Josh Shapiro's residence earlier this year. So yes, because it is a non-elected person, I saw this perfectly the other day. The bullet went through his neck because the shooter didn't know your name. That's what resonates so deeply here.
That'll preach right there. In my theology question on social media today, I described Charlie as, quote, the most high-profile American Christian martyr in recent memory. Do you think that's apropos?
Yes.
Yeah. Aaron, go ahead first if you'd like.
I mean, I can't think off of the top of my head. I mean, there are Christians, unfortunately, and just tragically, they live under constant persecution in places like Africa. How many stories have we seen this year of Christians being martyred and just brutally slaughtered in places in Africa and the rest of the world? This, persecution is no stranger to the church and to Christianity at all. But in terms of being a household name and rising to that level, yes, definitely in the West. I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, you've mentioned it's not even theoretical. You mentioned Telemachus before. What happens?
I've thought a lot about Telemachus and Charlie the last few days for sure.
What's happening right in front of you? I mean, people are saying right now, Charlie, this changed me. I'm going to church. My life will change. That the church was born out of the blood of the martyrs.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yes.
Again, for people that know the story, Telemachus was the monk who protested the savagery of Rome right there on the floor of the Colosseum, and he was stabbed to death for doing so. And the blowback, just as Rome was mainstreaming Christianity, the blowback, but this was kind of one of the last vestiges left of the old Rome, the pagan Rome, what was going on in the Colosseum. It was a high place. Kind of, we've talked before about, there were good kings of ancient Israel, but very few who went to the high place and tore it down, even among the good kings, because the people liked their Asherah poles and they liked the sensuality that occurred there. And even in a proto-Christianized Rome, the Colosseum was one of the last relics of the pagan Rome to go because the people liked their bread and circuses, particularly of the savage variety. And Telemachus just simply wasn't having it, and he went and protested it, and he was martyred for it. And the backlash produced against this is why that was the last day that gladiator games ever took place in Rome. So I have thought about that with Charlie. I know we know more about, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. today. I know people have gone back and looked at some stuff that he wrote as a seminary student denying the Trinity, for example. And I know the FBI has claims to have some problematic recordings of some of his immorality. But for the time in which he lived, he was identified by most Christians or most Americans as a vestige of the Christian church during the time in which he lived and he was murdered. And I would think this ranks like right behind that for maybe the most high profile martyring. And we've been blessed, and it goes to what the country was founded on. There have not been a lot of high profile Christian martyrings in America because we're a society that was largely inspired and founded by people who believed in Christianity or to some degree direct Christian influence like the Puritans at Plymouth Rock. So we don't have a lot of these. There's MLK. I'm sure there's a few others I'm forgetting. And then there is Charlie. Since Todd gave you a spoiler alert, let's go to number 2. Tertullian is still right. Now, Tertullian was the church father that coined the phrase, the blood of the martyrs was the seed of the early church. And I think we have seen definitive evidence of that this week. How long it will last, how long it will go on. I'll have more to say on that in one of my talking points a little bit later on. But unquestionably, in my lifetime, in my lifetime, other than 9/11, this was this organic event, meaning not an event on the calendar that everybody knows is there, like Christmas and Easter, and it's part of my heritage and part of my tradition to go to church and, to go to a candlelight service on Christmas Eve or get little Emma Sue in her pretty Easter dress, and take her to First Baptist on, Easter Sunday. I mean, you can do those things for all kinds of reasons without either caring or understanding or being engaged in the solemnity of the occasion because it's part of the American tradition, right? So when you look at organic events, 9/11 and then the martyring of Charlie produced more of an interest in Christianity and the church and we're only 5 days into this, by the way, of anything I've seen my entire lifetime. Think about, and stop it. If I'm right about that, think about what that also tells you. Because we're coming out of an era now where, particularly within evangelicalism, and that's my tribe and Aaron's tribe, there was way more emphasis on reaching so-called seekers than there was on biblical discipleship and fealty. And in fact, much of the evangelical church has spent the last generation post, men like Francis Schaeffer, pretty much this entire century, basically, so far, has spent this century thus far watering the word down, trying to make it palpable, deciding what people can handle, what they can't, trying to brand it, trying to make it seem more palatable to itchy ears. So there's a great irony there that all these conferences and all these books and all these magazines and everything else that have been sold on how do we reach the lost, and the martyring of a guy that many of those big Eva, furrowed brow, nicer than God, we're here for the seeker types, would not go anywhere near or want to get their hands dirty with. His martyring is actually what has driven seekers back to church this weekend at a way higher clip in one fell swoop. One bullet to Charlie's neck brought more people to church this weekend than an entire generation of evangelicalism's obsession with so-called seekers has done in a quarter of a century, guys.
Yeah, because those seekers have often asked for and then been given a PG faith, which is why I tell you all the time, we have a rated R faith. I told you, gave you a quote from Flannery O'Connor last week about how they think it's just people think faith is an electric blanket. But no, in fact, it's a cross. My daughter got confirmed yesterday. I missed that because I'm here. The sacrifice is that important. Her saint for her confirmation was Saint Joan of Arc. Upon being killed, she said, "Hold the cross high so I can see it through the flames." Martyrdom is our faith. We have done everything we can because of what Steve just said about the seeker-sensitive nonsense to run away from that fact and made it PG and G and utterly inconsequential and not capable of handling anything. We must do better.
John Daniel Davidson, the big quote that stands out, or thought that stands out from him from his original appearance last year on this program and talking about his book, Pagan America, is that normies, by and large, no matter what culture they come from, no matter what area of the planet they hail from, when it comes to politics, when it comes to clashes of worldviews, they're just going to default side with the stronger horse.
Mm-hmm.
That cuts both ways.
Mm-hmm.
It does. That's why you see in America in our time, paganism has been, for the most part, the stronger horse. And so you see a lot of normies, well, I'll just go that way. That's the way the wind is blowing. But when you have an event like last week, and then you have what happened on Friday night, that's why I kept using the word strength, strong. What happened on Friday night with Erika Kirk and the strength that she showed there. That's what it's all about. It really is at the end of the day. We would not be here. We would not be here if not for the martyrs. That's just, too many have just been sold a bill of comfort and rest easy is Christianity. And it's just not. It's just not, and never has been, never will be. And so what we just had illustrated for us is the cost, the true cost of your faith. Something that stuck out to me. My pastor absolutely nailed it yesterday. Spent 10, 15 minutes talking about this, praying all together. But there was a moment, and he spelled it out. There are no qualifiers here. Charlie Kirk is a martyr. He spelled that out for our church. And there's a section of our sanctuary where it tends to be teenagers like to sit together. And he turned to the teenagers and he said, which one of you is going to be the next Charlie Kirk? And that's a challenge.
You choke up right there.
That's a challenge That should be for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But I choked up as well when I heard that yesterday. I don't like to think about it, but that's the challenge before all of us.
I mean, that will preach right there. And that brings me to the next point, which is kind of a derivative of number two. But the name and lordship of the real Jesus, the real one, has been proclaimed and discussed more in our culture than at any point I can remember in my lifetime. And I think your observation about a rated R faith, Todd, it dawned on me. I think it's even better than I thought it was the first time I heard you say it, because the things that separate us from God are not the things that we rate PG. It's the things that we rate R. And if we're not going to earnestly address those things, then you can run all the glowing features in Relevant magazine and Christianity Today magazine you want. You're not relevant to me. The things that separate me from God are rated R, not the stuff that's rated PG. And when I'm mired in the rated R, the stuff that seems PG to me seems so wholesome, it's hokey, it's contrived, it can't be real, like it's unattainable. You know what I'm saying? And I go back to, I've told this story many times. I used to come home drunk from parties in college and flip channels, and I'd almost always end up watching something on NFL Films, Skinamax, or D. James Kennedy. And wearing these very ornate robes with this very high church level of communication. And I'm like, who is this clown? I just would sit there just hammered, just mocking him. And then after I got saved, I went back and stumbled upon his stuff again. I'm like, this stuff is incredible. I can't get enough of this. All right. Who is this guy? Oh, wait, it's the guy that I used to mock, because I was mired in rated R stuff. And so his PG stuff just seemed unattainable to me. We have to address the rated R stuff. We just have to. I mean, the entire opening book of the Bible is a whole bunch of rated R stuff. A whole bunch of it. Murder, mayhem, adultery, orgies. All kinds of rated R things are in the very first book. Let's go to point 4. I think this was a litmus test for the local church. And yes, I just think there's just no excuse. None. I don't care how many months ago your pastor prepared the sermon. There's absolutely no excuse to not address the most high-profile martyring most of America can ever remember seeing. There's just not an excuse for it. Not saying the whole message had to be about him or any of the message or anything, but to not acknowledge it at all. Let me put it this way. If someone got murdered in your church, would you be okay with, well, you know, the pastor already had the sermon mentioned, already had the sermon and everything laid out, the whole program laid out, you know? Of course not. You'd feel pretty betrayed, right? Yeah. You know what, though? Here's the thing. Someone did get murdered in your church. Someone did get murdered in your church. Because your church is not the confines of that building, folks. The bride of Christ. Your church is not merely the address you parked your car in the lot. Someone did get murdered in your church. And pretty much everyone in the church knew who they were. And the reasons they were murdered is for proclaiming the lordship of Jesus Christ. So yeah, you bet your sweet bippy it was a litmus test. 100% it was. And if they failed, what they showed you is they won't be there for you. When the spirit of the age comes for you, and maybe it won't be a bullet to the throat, maybe it'll be your marriage, maybe it'll be a wayward kid, a prodigal. a sudden tragedy, a sudden death, when the spirit of the age knocks on your door, they won't be there for you. Is that too harsh?
Oh, no. And you know who would agree with you? Charlie.
One of the last things Charlie did, by the way, was go after Stephen Furtick for not commenting on some of the things going on in his own community, like right there in Charlotte, North Carolina. Yes, one of the largest churches in America. Yeah. That was just a couple of weeks ago, in fact.
A young guy in our...
Or 1 week ago. Yeah.
A young guy in our hotel approached me this morning. He's going to be at the conference, and he works here in D.C. We were talking, and I told him the same thing. You know, that the church is and always will be. That's what the cross is. And those who are willing to share that cross are always the church, will always be the church, help the church flourish. But because we are the people, Steve, you always remind us on this show, as we are sinners, we will bury that cross in the name of comfort whenever we want to. Charlie would scold you for that, not just because this is his life. Beforehand, he would tell you about the blood of the martyrs, and he would tell you, you must take advantage of that because it's a holy thing, not for mere politics or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Holiness is upon us. Mm-hmm. Sacrifice in the name of the Lord is upon us. Death, burial, and resurrection is upon us. You must immerse yourself in that if you are a Christian and want to change the world as Christ commanded you to do.
Amen.
Yeah, and on X yesterday, I just said, hey, 8 a.m. service that we always go to, fullest I can remember it. Pastor nailed it. Logjam getting out in between services. And what was it like in your neck of the woods? And overwhelming, the majority of people said that, yeah, my church was good. They handled it well. But there were still far too many who said it wasn't mentioned at all, passing reference in prayer, just really disappointed. That's just far too many. And I just, one after the other. I told them, leave. Just leave. If they're not going to get it in this moment, I just don't think they ever will. I'm sorry. I
agree.
I don't care how high-minded or how pristine their theology is. If your theology is so sterile and pristine that it can't even be bothered to react to the martyring of one of your brothers, it's not really much of a local body, is it? I just don't think I don't really appreciate Spencer Cox, the Utah governor, in the Friday press conference, just making his brand, just kind of making that a big deal on Friday. One thing that he did say that was true, I think, is that this is a watershed moment. And if it wasn't even discussed or barely mentioned, barely touched on in your church, I just don't know why you would stick around.
Especially if George Floyd was.
Yeah.
Again, if we're going to give the maximum amount of mercy to the brethren, then if they genuflected to George Floyd but couldn't be bothered with this, 100% never go back. Maybe something happened, a tragedy, but if they genuflected to George Floyd and can't address this, never go back. Number 5. The attempt to murder Trump and the actual murder of Charlie shows the spirit of the age fears MAGA more than it has feared any other Christian/conservative/Republican infrastructure/institution the right has manifested in this generation. What do you think?
Yeah, that explains. It's not just the rabid left either that explains. There is populism is like a lot of things. It's not inherently good. It's not inherently bad. The specifics of the populism matter, but this populism is a moment that combines the likes of Charlie, and Steve, who didn't go to college but have still risen through the ranks and did what they've done because the main thing is the main thing. It's not about popularity. It's about taking that wherever you have to take it. It's matched, and where Steve sat in front of the Vice President of the United States, who hosted Charlie's show today, his background, but he took a different path. He went to college. He got the law degree. He was a Marine. The likes of Donald Trump, the gold-plated toilet guy from New York. It is combining people in a way that the people who normally give you the sorting hat and put you into your ridiculous Slytherin houses, it blew that entire thing up. Absolutely. And good riddance. It's something Steve has been trying to do your entire adult life, trying to break up those ridiculous silos that, quite frankly, on the left and right have kept us trapped in nonsense and nice and comfort and tone for way too long.
May this be just the precursor of awakening something much larger, deeper, and more vast in this country. Because I think this is undeniably correct. I mean, I heard Don Jr. the other day. This is now 3 times in the last 15 months. People I love have gotten shot at. We're beyond not being able to live like this. We have to live a completely new way. And for whatever, love it or hate it, I know that I've already seen people broken by TDS already, just completely moving on. Let's talk about something else today, because they recognize it as well. They recognize it as well, and they resent it because their brains are broken by TDS. And I'm talking about some people saying they're, believing they're on the right in this country. It's just, this is the reality. And it took me a long time to wake up to that. And it wasn't until fight that I started to reconsider, I got a lot of things really wrong. But I hope this is just the beginning. I hope it's just the beginning, and I pray that.
Amen. All right, we have got 5 more things we have to consider, including the massive role the future of TPUSA is going to play in everything we're talking about. We'll do that here next. Folks, now is a great time to subscribe to Blaze TV, support the overall mission of what we're trying to do here, to bring you patriotic, America First content. Also, a lot more faith-based content we're doing here at the Blaze too. So if you want to be a part of us and get all the exclusive stuff we do, you can get a discounted subscription right now using my last name. Deace is your promo code at blazetv.com/Deace. blazetv.com/Deace. Right after the show finishes live here in about 20 minutes. We're going to stick around and do an overtime on a topic we have yet to determine. By the way, just reminded myself of that. So much for that photographic memory. Forgot we got to do in overtime. All right. But we do that and all kinds of as a network. Exclusive content just for subscribers. Don't miss any of it. blazetv.com/Deace is where you can go. Use the promo code Deace. You'll get $20 off your annual subscription. It comes down to $8 a month, 26 cents a day. And hey, I've got to believe, Friday tends to be Todd's day. We know that kind of Todd saves up all his best takes for Friday. It's like the round table. He's like, I got to take on 4 people. I got to bring it, Actually, I don't save anything up. I'm just even still better on Friday. So like on a random Tuesday when Todd is normally shooting blanks, he's still worth 26 cents a day. I have to believe that. You agree with that, Todd, right? All right, go to blazetv.com/Deace. Use the promo code Deace, and you'll get a big discount to subscribe to Blaze TV. blazetv.com/Deace, promo code Deace.
26 cents is the Des Moines rate. We're in D.C. now.
That's true.
Inflation.
I did this thing last night. I had our driver stop at CVS because I got to drink a gallon of water a day, man. And so I had him stop at CVS so I could pick up my waters. And I'm like, listen, man, they put me up at the Waldorf Astoria, and I'm not going to be, that's an incredible place. So it is an incredible place. I cannot afford it myself. It's an incredible place, but I'm also not paying $15 for a bottle of water. So take me to the CVS in DC, where it'll just be $7.50, the discounted price, of course. Yes. All right, let's get to the final 5 things that I think I've observed about these fateful last 5 days since Charlie's assassination. Let's start here with number 6. I think TPUSA is going to have a huge say in what happens next. One thing that I know you have brought up to me a few times privately is we've got to make sure this is not just a moment. We have to sustain this. We have to grow from this. I don't think the local church has the connectivity and the infrastructure. I mean, the fact that we're sitting here with our audience. I mean, if there is a significant, I guess we'll say minority, if there's a significant minority in the audience of this show, given how hardcore we tend to be, and yet there is still a significant minority of the audience in this show who went to church this Sunday who couldn't be bothered to address this, what do you think exists out there in the broader landscape? You know what I'm saying? Okay. And so who does have the connective tissue, who does have the resources and the wherewithal and the network to make sure to capture that energy and then send it out. Capture it, coalesce it, and then send it out. Not a lot of places to go for that. I think TPUSA might be the only place, at least as far as I can tell, on a mass national scale anyway.
Well, I think another way you can tell it is within the last, over the course of the weekend, people were posting that the number of people reaching out to Turning Point USA saying we'd like a chapter. Right, I mean, it was amazing, but that speaks to the fact that there's this absolute void, and now they're looking at the one place, which it, like you said many times, why is Donald Trump like the guy who's bearing the cross once more into the breach? But he is, because the church has been forfeit. Well, here, the church should be like, they're looking to Turning Point USA, not to you. How about, it's not an either or, it's a both and. So how about we play some catch up?
I mean, there were 2 high profile New Yorkers that are in the last quarter century that I think of that were very well known in Christian circles, Tim Keller and Donald Trump. Why'd they try to shoot Donald Trump instead of Tim Keller? He had a church right there in the heart of New York City. He sold more books. He preached more sermons. Why did they try to shoot Donald Trump and not Tim Keller? Why'd they try to shoot Charlie Kirk and not Tim Keller? I think we all know the answer to that. Aaron, what do you think at this point?
Yeah, I think so, because there's been some talk already. I mean, I don't want to walk on what's coming up next, but there's no way. He's just irreplaceable. Charlie Kirk is. So the name of the game is not trying to replace him, but trying to replicate him as much as possible. And those are 2 different things. But the only way that this is not just going to be a moment, but instead a movement, is where the movement already clearly is. And that is this organization that he built. I mean, it became abundantly obvious to me in the last couple of years especially, but certainly in the last 12 months, just how much God was working through Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. I had it in the back of my head 5 years ago. That was primarily a get out the vote organization, or kind of a right-wing GOP aligned this or that. But
and maybe 5 years ago, that's primarily what it was.
Maybe it was, but it was very abundantly obvious to me in the last couple of years that God has worked through Charlie Kirk and TPUSA in some pretty awesome ways.
All right, well, that brings us to the next point then, number 7 here. Aaron just alluded to it. No one person can fill the void Charlie leaves. To me, this is a way bigger void than even the passing of Rush. And it's because of Rush's success, the infrastructure that would take the mantle from him already was established. Glenn Beck, Mark Levin, Sean Hannity, these guys were already giants of their own as the second generation after Rush. You see what I'm saying? There isn't. Guys, we're talking about the fact that TPUSA literally is going to have to be an apostolic hub, okay, to connect various churches who know what time it is around the country. There isn't and people have sent notes to me, and I Seth Grube and I were texting each other, hey, we're going to have to step up way more. But here's the thing: neither Seth nor I, nor really anyone else you could think of in Charlie's space, had anything close to the capacity that he had when he took that bullet. Whereas when Rush passed away, there were giants in the industry established already on their own. Is that what I'm trying to? Now, Rush's influence as a singular figure and as the OG that made all of this possible. All right, there's no such thing as the conservative, there's no such thing as CPI where we're here today. Without Rush, there's no Blaze without Rush, there's no Steve Deace without Rush, there's no Glenn Beck without Rush. But much of this infrastructure was in place when Rush passed. And that's what happens when you pass away in your late 60s as opposed to 31 years old, okay? There just simply wasn't time for a solar system to develop around Charlie's son. It was beginning to, but there's not a fully developed ecosystem around his success yet. And the way that he did things. And so there's a massive void here that it's going to take lots of different people and lots of different ways to fill.
In our current public education and college dynamic and comfort-driven society, you have a hard time finding 31-year-old who's an expert at theology, political planning, rhetoric, and messaging. Those are three different things. He was a seasoned veteran already at all three of them.
Mm-hmm. Guys, he helped oversee the Get Out the Vote effort for the last victorious presidential campaign. I mean, this is going to be airing a massive void.
Kennedy flat out came out
and said, hey, he's the one that brokered.
He's the one that brokered this, and thus you have us in office.
Mm-hmm.
31.
Yeah, it's just unavoidable, this conversation, because you just can't replace somebody like that. You just can't. And I think as we're still processing, our emotions after what happened last week in the martyrdom, in the martyring, I just think we have to I've been preaching realism this year. I'm just trying to see the world the way that it is, not the way that I would like it to be. But this is our new world right now, is that what was, from what I've heard, that was basically going to be the American right whenever it was. The Trumps were always going to be around for a long time. But in terms of the structure of what the right, not only politically, but the church, I mean, they were ascending. And they are right now. I mean, they're fundraising out the wazoo, which is why this is just, we all have to be Charlie now. We all have to be.
Mm-hmm.
We have to replicate that. That's the only way. I promise you, it's the only way going forward, because he's just irreplaceable.
Number 8, we have to question how we educate our kids more than ever before. Whether it is looking at what happened within the Robinson family, from what we know of it itself, seems like kind of a salt of the earth American family. And yet their son Tyler appears to have been completely indoctrinated into the darkest abysses of the hard left, despite that upbringing. The amount of teachers coming forward. There's a story out today, a teacher showing 9 and 10-year-olds the assassination video and getting them to cheer for it. I mean, we have to take a look at this. I mean, I was somewhat tongue-in-cheek when I used to call this Satan's youth ministry, but that's ultimately really what we're talking about here. We need to take a more serious look at how we are educating our kids than ever before. Ever before.
Teachers' unions must be wiped out. It would be a responsible answer to this to get rid of the department education forthwith. Just begin terraforming this thing. And also regarding all things online, including video games now, which are now as I understand it, you can be anonymous and connect through all of these games and have all these alternate personalities. I'm speaking for myself on this because I know this goes beyond just this moment. But I've said this before. We have differences of opinion. That's fair, but we need to talk about it. I think all anonymity, and I mean it, all of it, needs to be gone from these, from everything, from Twitter to Reddit. It's a cancer upon you. Get to create your false reality for yourself where you think you are this guy who just has to get up and do what he did, and he's been poked and poked and poked and poked, and there's no accountability because nobody puts their name on it. Enough.
Yeah, I'd say to parents who are listening to this show, a show like this, you are already coming from a worldview or interested in a worldview that we espouse on this program. So you're trying to probably already do your best to bring up your children in the way that they should go. I'm just saying this was never really going to be a question in our household, but there's one concrete step. Children, before they reach 18, never, ever, 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 ever get unfettered access to the internet.
Did you see that heartbreaking picture of the kid?
Yeah.
What 10 years old, got his first...
Yeah. So we can essentially just be secluded into that world. Yeah. Yep. Number 9, I addressed this earlier. Let's talk about it really quick again. Political sadism has to be purged.
Seconded.
The idea that I can take, and I'm permitted to take, and I'm permitted to espouse the sadistic pleasure and joy out of seeing physical, real world, painful, existential, life and death level of suffering on those I politically disagree with. We can't permit that. And that I'm just telling you folks right now, if we let this stand, Antietam is after this. Antietam is next. And given the demographics of this show, I don't think it's going to be anybody currently doing the show or the vast majority of the people currently listening and watching it that are going to be boots on the ground in Antietam, okay? It's going to be your kids and grandkids.
Right.
They're going to be the ones. So if you want to get all tough guy, I'm ready for civil war, it won't be you, 55-year-old dude. It won't be you. Nope. It's going to be your son, your grandson. He's going to be on the ground there instead. This has to go. Again, it's too toxic. It's too much venom into the water table of any culture. It's unprecedented. We've never really seen, the only other time we've ever seen anything like this, frankly, involved the Jim Crow South celebrating the assassination of MLK, the Reconstruction South celebrating the assassination of Lincoln. Those are considered some of the darkest moments of American history.
Yes.
Those aren't precedents we want to repeat. It can't be allowed out. The social cost of displaying this should be so high that even if you're entertained by it, you wouldn't dare display it, let alone inhabit you to this point, because it would take away your ability to fulfill your basic needs. I want a job. I want a career. I want to take vacations. I want to have friends. Nope. So just like we don't tolerate, hey guys, I'm bringing back the Klan. Hey guys, I'm the new president of NAMBLA. There's a huge social stigma for that, correct?
Right.
There needs to be a massive social stigma for this. Anybody have anything to add on that really quick?
Don't you dare try to slippery slope us with your free speech nonsense now when you were canceling us for saying use ivermectin or no, a boy really isn't a girl.
Right.
No. Game over on that front.
Yeah, I think this is the only way you cancel culture, is making sure that this is not just a one-sided fight. Okay? Mm-hmm. If you're gonna, it's just a categorical error to say that this is a free speech issue. We're not sending you to prison, but you're free to have disgusting.
The word I used was social cost.
Yes,
social cost.
Yes. Actions or words are not without consequences, and that's what we're seeing a little bit of. We need a lot more of it.
Feel free to use your free speech to sadistically get off on a stand-in for me for murder, and I will use my free speech to take you out of the marketplace of ideas. I'll use my free speech to have you lose your job.
Done.
Oh, you don't like that anymore? Well, then I guess we should probably return to DEFCON 3. But it won't just be a unilateral thing. It won't be me doing that, and then you do whatever you want. Nope, we're not doing that anymore. Finally, we're going to need each other more than ever before. And I just kind of think that speaks for itself. We're going to need each other more than ever before, I think, moving forward.
Get busy living or get busy dying, brother. Amen.
Yeah, this is why yesterday for churches and pastors all over the country was such a huge opportunity. Some pastors hit it out of the park. Some pastors didn't even make it up to the plate. There's a sifting going on. I pray that it results in growth and a blooming of a new movement of people who understand the times in which we live and what to do about them.
Go hard. Romans 8:28.